Imagine if every hour you spent could produce the results of 3. Imagine if your days no longer slip through your fingers like sand, but stacked up like bricks, each one building the life you've always dreamed of. There is a formula for that kind of productivity, and once you understand it, you'll never go back to living by chance again. Let me start by asking you a simple question. How many of your days last week truly mattered? I don't mean how many were busy. I mean how many days actually moved you forward. You see, most people confuse movement with progress. They rush, they respond, they repeat, but they don't advance. They fill their schedules, but not their lives. The truth is, productivity isn't about getting everything done. It's about getting the right things done. The secret formula for massive productivity isn't hidden in some new app, planner, or miracle morning routine. It's written in the small, quiet disciplines that decide whether today will matter or not. Here's what most people never realize. Your day doesn't begin when the alarm clock rings. It begins the night before, when you decide what will matter. Because a man or woman who goes to bed with intention wakes up with purpose. And when you live on purpose, you waste nothing. Not your time, not your effort, not your energy. The formula is simple, but it's not easy. Clarity, discipline, and energy. When you combine those 3, you unlock a level of productivity most people never reach. Because clarity gives you direction, discipline gives you structure, and energy gives you the drive to keep going when others stop. Now, don't make the mistake of thinking productivity is about working harder. That's the trap. Some people work hard all their lives and still end up broke, tired, and unfulfilled. Productivity is not about motion. It's about creation. It's about taking 1 hour and turning it into something that lasts. A skill, a result, a step closer to freedom. In this talk, I'm going to show you exactly how to turn those 3 keys, clarity, discipline, and energy, into a daily formula that multiplies your results, eliminates wasted time, and gives you back control over your life. Because when you master this, you'll discover something powerful. Success doesn't belong to the smartest or the luckiest. It belongs to those who learn to produce at a higher level every single day. So if you've ever felt like you're running fast but getting nowhere, stay with me. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to get twice as much done with half the effort, stay with me. Because once you learn this formula, you'll never look at time the same way again. Clarity is the foundation of all achievement. It's the quiet power behind every great success, the invisible force that separates the busy from the productive, the wanderer from the winner. Without clarity, all effort is scattered. You can work from sunrise to sunset, but without knowing where you're going, every hour is just motion without meaning. And yet most people wake up each morning and start running, not realizing they haven't even picked a direction. They chase distractions, answer everyone's requests, and call it progress. But clarity, real clarity, is when your life has a point, when your actions have alignment, when you can look at your to-do list and know which 3 things actually move the needle forward. That's when you begin to live on purpose instead of by accident. You see, the secret to massive productivity is not about doing more things. It's about doing more of the right things. And you can't know what's right until you've decided what matters. Productivity without clarity is like speed without steering. You might be moving fast, but you'll likely end up in the wrong place, exhausted and wondering why it doesn't feel like success. That's why the first step is not to plan your day. It's to define your direction. You must take time to ask yourself, what do I truly want? Because without that question, every day becomes a repetition of yesterday. People keep themselves busy because it feels productive, but in truth, business is often a form of avoidance. They avoid the deeper question, what am I working toward? When you find clarity, you gain power. It's like turning a foggy morning into a sunrise. Suddenly, everything looks sharper. You know where to place your effort. You stop saying yes to every request because you know every yes is a trade. You stop confusing activity with effectiveness. You start realizing that time is not your most valuable resource. Clarity is, because clarity gives time its value. 1 hour of focused work with purpose can do more than 10 hours of scattered activity. That's the difference between ordinary output and massive productivity. Think of clarity as the mental compass that directs your effort. Every great producer, every achiever who has built something worthwhile, began with a moment of deep clarity, a vision that anchored their decisions. They knew what they wanted and why they wanted it. That why gave every how its strength. When you know your destination, obstacles become detours, not dead ends. But when you're unclear, even small problems look like mountains. Clarity doesn't remove difficulty, but it gives your struggle meaning. It tells you, this is worth it. And when something feels worth it, you keep going. Most people never stop long enough to get clear. They wake up in a rush, check messages, react to the world, and never pause to define what matters today. But you cannot create massive productivity from a reactive life. You have to become proactive, intentional, deliberate. Before you open your laptop, before you check your phone, you should already know your mission for the day. Ask yourself, what are the 3 most important outcomes I must create today? Not tasks, not chores, not busy work, outcomes. Because tasks can fill time, but outcomes change life. Clarity simplifies everything. It tells you what to do, what to avoid, and what to delegate. It creates focus, and focus eliminates waste. It's not about having more time. It's about removing what doesn't belong in the time you already have. When you know your priorities, you stop trying to do everything, and that's when you start achieving something. It's amazing how much power you gain when you decide what not to do. You begin to feel lighter. Your days start to feel structured instead of chaotic. You stop multitasking because clarity makes it clear that splitting your attention only splits your results. Clarity also demands honesty. You have to look at your life and admit what's not working. You can't build productivity on illusions. Some people stay busy because it hides their fear of confronting failure. They think if they keep moving, they won't have to face the truth. But clarity forces you to slow down long enough to ask the hard questions. Am I growing? Am I building something that matters? Am I doing work that aligns with my values? These are the questions that open the door to transformation. Because the clearer you become about who you are and what you want, the more powerful your actions become. Think of a magnifying glass under the sun. The same light that warms everything can also ignite a fire. But only when it's focused. That's clarity. Most people spread their light everywhere. A little effort here, a little energy there, and wonder why nothing burns bright. But when you narrow your focus, when you gather your effort into a single direction, you become unstoppable. You can move mountains, not because you work harder, but because you finally stop scattering your strength. Clarity also gives you peace. It removes confusion and hesitation. It replaces doubt with decision. When you know your purpose, you stop second-guessing yourself. You don't need permission to move forward. You don't need validation from others. Clarity gives you authority over your own life, and that authority breeds confidence. Confidence isn't loud, it's calm. It's the quiet knowing that you're on the right path. You don't have to rush anymore. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to keep walking. The greatest tragedy is not in failing to achieve. It's in succeeding at something that doesn't matter. Many people work their entire lives climbing ladders only to realize at the top that the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. That's what happens without clarity. You can win the game and still lose your soul. But when you're clear, every step feels right. You can measure your days not by how busy you were, but by how aligned you were. That's true productivity, the kind that creates not just success, but satisfaction. Clarity transforms your relationship with time. You stop seeing time as something that controls you and start seeing it as something you control. You begin to design your days instead of drifting through them. You schedule your priorities instead of prioritizing your schedule. Every hour starts to feel intentional. You begin to recognize that every yes requires a no somewhere else, and you start choosing wisely. Because productivity isn't about doing everything. It's about doing what matters most and doing it well. If you want to unlock massive productivity, you don't need a new strategy or system first. You need to pause long enough to define what success means to you. You need to clarify your vision so deeply that it pulls you forward like gravity. When you wake up with a clear mission, your energy flows naturally toward it. Decisions become easier because you have a standard. Distractions lose their power because they don't fit the picture of where you're going. And that's the beauty of clarity. It turns effort into direction, direction into focus, and focus into progress. It gives your life a sense of order, and in that order, you find power. Discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement. It's what transforms vision into reality, ideas into results, and potential into performance. Everyone wants success, everyone dreams of progress, but only a few are willing to pay the daily price of discipline. Because discipline is rarely exciting in the moment. It's the early morning when you'd rather stay in bed. It's the quiet work when no one's watching. It's doing the task again and again until it becomes instinct. But make no mistake, discipline is the foundation on which all massive productivity is built. Without it, clarity fades, motivation vanishes, and even the best plans collapse under the weight of inconsistency. Discipline doesn't demand perfection. It demands persistence. You don't have to be perfect every day, but you do have to show up. Success is not an event. It's a rhythm, a daily repetition of simple actions that compound over time. Most people underestimate the power of doing small things consistently. They're waiting for the big break, the breakthrough moment, the surge of motivation that will finally get them going. But those who achieve massive productivity understand that discipline creates its own momentum. You don't wait for the feeling. You build the feeling by doing. Discipline is the habit of beginning before you feel ready, of acting even when it's inconvenient. The truth is, motivation is unreliable. Some days you'll have it, most days you won't. Motivation is like the wind. It comes and goes. But discipline is the sail. It catches whatever wind comes and still moves you forward. You don't need to be inspired to take action. You need to be committed. Because once you're committed, you no longer debate whether you'll do it or not. You've already decided. You simply follow through. That's what separates the disciplined from the distracted. Decisions made once, not questioned daily. Every productive person has learned to build discipline like a muscle. You start small, you strengthen it daily, and over time, it becomes part of who you are. At first, discipline feels like sacrifice. You give up comfort for commitment, distraction for focus, convenience for consistency. But slowly, that sacrifice turns into satisfaction, because every act of discipline adds to your sense of control, and control builds confidence. When you keep your word to yourself, you begin to trust yourself, and that trust is the seed of unstoppable momentum. Discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect. It's saying to yourself, I'm worth the effort. My goals matter enough to deserve my consistency. People often think discipline restricts freedom, but it's the opposite. Undisciplined people live at the mercy of moods and circumstances. They react to life instead of leading it. But the disciplined person creates order, and in that order lies freedom. Freedom from chaos, from guilt, from regret. Freedom to choose how your time, energy, and attention are spent. Discipline also creates structure, and structure builds momentum. Think of your habits as bricks. Each small daily action, the reading, the workout, the focused hour of work, lays another brick. One brick means nothing by itself, but over time, those bricks become a wall of strength and consistency that protects you from procrastination and distraction. The key is not intensity, it's continuity. You can't build a wall by laying 1,000 bricks in one day. You build it by laying a few bricks every day without fail. Massive productivity comes from small disciplines repeated over time. Discipline demands that you work even when you don't see immediate results. That's the hardest part. The gap between effort and outcome can discourage most people. They give up too early, thinking their work isn't paying off. But discipline teaches patience. You keep planting seeds even before you see the harvest. You trust the process. You understand that the invisible days, the ones no one sees, the ones where progress is silent, are the ones that prepare you for visible success. Every disciplined act is a deposit in the account of your future. One day, the balance pays back with interest. Another truth about discipline is that it's built through choice, not chance. Each time you choose to follow through instead of giving in, you strengthen the muscle. Each time you choose to say, "Not now," to distraction, you remind yourself who's in charge. Discipline is not something you are born with, it's something you decide to practice. And that practice begins in the smallest areas. How you manage your morning, how you handle temptation, how you complete small tasks when no one's checking. Because the way you do the small things reveals how you'll handle the big ones. If you can't be disciplined with an hour, you can't be trusted with a dream. There's also a certain peace that comes with discipline. It eliminates confusion. It simplifies decision-making. Once you've decided to commit, half the mental noise disappears. You no longer waste energy debating whether to act, you simply act. That mental clarity releases energy for what truly matters. Discipline, therefore, is an energy saver, not an energy drain. It removes the chaos of indecision and replaces it with the calm of consistency. Many people wait for the right time, the right mood, the perfect conditions to start. But disciplined people understand there is no right time. The right time is whenever you decide. The act of starting creates the right conditions. The secret to getting ahead is not waiting for certainty, but beginning in faith. You don't have to see the entire staircase to take the first step. And that first step, repeated daily, builds unstoppable confidence. Discipline gives you proof that you can rely on yourself. Once you have that proof, everything changes. Discipline also protects your time. It teaches you to say no, not out of arrogance, but out of purpose. Every yes to distraction is a no to your destiny. The disciplined person knows that time is life, and wasting it carelessly is a quiet form of self-sabotage. You can't do everything, so you must protect what truly matters. That's what makes discipline powerful. It forces you to choose. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what aligns with your goals, again and again, until it becomes second nature. Discipline transforms your relationship with difficulty. The undisciplined person sees difficulty as a wall. The disciplined person sees it as a doorway. Because every time you endure discomfort, you grow stronger. The pain of discipline is always temporary, but the pride of mastery lasts. Eventually, what once felt hard becomes easy. What once required willpower becomes automatic. That's the point where discipline turns into identity, when doing the right thing no longer feels like effort, but like who you are. When you build discipline, you build reliability, not just for others, but for yourself. You stop breaking promises to yourself. You stop negotiating with excuses. And that's when your productivity begins to soar, because discipline creates focus, and focus creates flow. The more consistent your effort, the less resistance you face. You begin to operate with quiet power, not because you're doing something extraordinary, but because you've learned to do the ordinary things consistently. Massive productivity is never the result of one heroic act. It's the result of thousands of small disciplined choices stacked over time. Each day, you either build discipline or break it. Every action is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. You can't control the outcome every day, but you can control your effort. Discipline is the decision to do what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like it, because feelings change, but commitments shouldn't. There will always be days when the mind says stop, when comfort calls louder than progress. But discipline is the quiet voice that answers, not yet. It's what keeps you at the desk, at the gym, in the work, long after the excitement fades. It's what keeps you aligned when distractions tempt you to drift. It's the daily act of aligning your actions with your intentions, regardless of how you feel. And when that alignment becomes consistent, productivity becomes effortless. Because discipline turns effort into habit, and habit into excellence. Energy is the fuel of productivity. It's the invisible force that determines how much of your potential you can actually use in a day. You can have clear goals and a strong sense of discipline, but if your energy is low, your productivity will collapse under fatigue and frustration. Energy is what brings your purpose to life. It's the spark that turns a plan into motion, the power that turns intention into execution. And the truth is, most people don't fail because they lack time or talent. They fail because they run out of energy long before they run out of opportunity. When you learn how to manage and renew your energy, you unlock a level of productivity that feels almost limitless. Energy doesn't come only from the body. It comes from alignment. You can sleep 8 hours, eat healthy, and still feel drained if what you're doing doesn't align with your purpose. When your heart isn't in it, your energy leaks out in silence. But when your work matches your values, when your daily actions connect to something meaningful, energy begins to renew itself. That's why purpose is the highest form of fuel. You don't burn out from working hard, you burn out from working without meaning. Purpose gives energy its direction, and that direction turns fatigue into fulfillment. Your energy is also affected by how you manage your mind. Mental clutter drains energy faster than physical exhaustion. Worry, regret, and overthinking consume enormous amounts of power that could be used to create, build, or focus. The undisciplined mind is like a leaky battery, constantly running, never resting. To sustain high energy, you must learn the discipline of mental renewal. That means knowing when to unplug, when to breathe, when to pause and reset. Massive productivity doesn't come from pushing endlessly. It comes from managing your cycles, knowing when to charge and when to perform. Just like muscles grow and rest after resistance, your mind grows stronger when you give it space to recover. There's also emotional energy, and this may be the most underestimated source of productivity. Your emotions color your entire experience. Frustration, resentment, guilt, and anger quietly drain your strength. Gratitude, optimism, and enthusiasm multiply it. Energy flows in the direction of your dominant emotions. If you constantly dwell on problems, your energy follows your focus and feeds the problem. But when you train yourself to focus on solutions, your energy flows forward. Emotional management is productivity management. You can't create positive results with a negative spirit. That's why people who stay grateful, hopeful, and inspired seem to have endless energy, because they draw from an internal source that circumstances can't touch. Physical energy, of course, plays its part too. You can't produce great results with a body that's constantly neglected. The way you treat your body is the way you treat your future. Sleep, nutrition, and movement are not luxuries, they're investments. A tired body creates a tired mind, and a tired mind makes poor decisions. Many people sabotage their productivity simply by living in a state of low physical activity. They rely on caffeine, crash diets, or endless stress, hoping to squeeze more out of themselves. But all that does is shorten their lifespan of effectiveness. True productivity is sustainable. It's about working smarter, not just longer, and that requires honoring your physical energy as a sacred resource. Energy follows focus, and focus follows purpose. When you know why you're doing something, you don't need external motivation. Purpose acts like an inner engine, generating energy even when circumstances get tough. That's why people who are passionate about what they do often outwork everyone else. Not because they have more time, but because they have more time. They're fueled by you. You can't fake that kind of drive. It comes from within, from the deep understanding that your effort contributes to something bigger than yourself. That understanding keeps the fire alive, even through setbacks and challenges. To unlock massive productivity, you must learn to protect your energy from leaks. Every unnecessary argument, every unimportant commitment, every distraction you entertain, all of them drain your energy reserve. You have to become selective with what you allow into your life. Guard your attention the way a rich man guards his fortune, because every moment you spend on what doesn't matter is energy stolen from what does. The key is not to have more energy, but to waste less. Simplify your environment, minimize unnecessary noise, and create systems that reduce friction. When your environment supports your focus, your energy naturally rises. Energy also comes from momentum. When you start taking action, even small action, energy builds. Motion creates emotion. Sometimes the best way to recharge is not to rest, but to move, to do something, to make progress. Because progress generates power. You've probably experienced it before. You start a small task reluctantly, and within minutes, you're fully engaged. That's the principle of activation energy. The hardest part is starting. Once you start, energy multiplies. The secret is to stop waiting to feel ready and just begin. Momentum will take care of the rest. The people you surround yourself with also play a major role in your energy. Energy is contagious. Spend time around complainers, and you'll feel drained even if you've done nothing. Spend time around driven, optimistic people, and you'll feel lifted without effort. Protecting your energy means protecting your environment, both physical and social. Choose people who pull you higher, who speak life into your ideas, who remind you of your potential when you forget. Negative energy is expensive. It costs you progress. Positive energy is profitable. It pays you back in motivation and creativity. Another key to maintaining energy is living in integrity. When your actions contradict your values, your energy drops. When you keep promises to yourself, your energy rises. That's because integrity aligns your inner world with your outer actions, removing internal conflict. Every time you compromise what you know is right for convenience or approval, you weaken your energy field. But when you live truthfully, when your words match your deeds, you become powerful. You stop leaking energy through guilt or regret. You walk lighter, think clearer, act stronger. That's the kind of energy that fuels massive productivity. Steady, honest, and grounded energy renewal is also about perspective. How you interpret events determines how much energy they give or take. Two people can face the same challenge. One sees it as a burden, the other as a blessing, and their energy levels will be worlds apart. When you train your mind to see growth in struggle and opportunity in obstacles, life starts giving you energy instead of draining it. Your mindset becomes a generator instead of a consumer. That's the ultimate level of mastery. When life's difficulties feed your fire instead of extinguishing it, you can also amplify your energy through rituals that restore you. Silence, reading, gratitude, reflection, prayer, exercise. These are not random habits, they are energy renewers. They bring you back to center, clear your thoughts, and refill your emotional tank. High performers don't rely on motivation, they rely on systems that renew energy consistently, because they understand that you can't pour from an empty cup. The more energy you have, the more generous, creative, and productive you become. It's not selfish to recharge, it's responsible. The world benefits most when you operate at your highest energy. Energy responds to attention. Whatever you focus on expands. If you focus on exhaustion, you'll feel more tired. If you focus on purpose, you'll feel more alive. That's why gratitude is so powerful. It shifts your attention from what's missing to what's present, and that shift instantly boosts energy. Gratitude produces optimism, and optimism fuels endurance. It gives you the strength to keep moving when logic says stop. That's the quiet secret behind people who never seem to quit. They focus their energy on what they can control and release what they can't. The final truth about energy is that it's not just about managing time. It's about managing alignment. The more aligned your actions are with your values, your purpose, and your priorities, the more natural energy you have. Energy isn't something you chase, it's something you uncover by living truthfully and working meaningfully. When you do work that matters, for reasons that inspire you, with people who uplift you, your energy becomes self-sustaining. You no longer have to push yourself. You're pulled forward by purpose. And that's when productivity becomes effortless, when your days feel light yet powerful, and when your work begins to flow with life itself